So Dr. Kimberly and I are excited that you're here. We're going to talk about lasting immunity today. We're going to talk about everything from nutrition to detoxification. Some of you guys bring constant questions to us every time this time of the year that rolls around. What's the best supplements that we can take? What is it that we should be doing? What action steps should we be taking right now to really make our immune systems titanium when it comes into the fall?
That's exactly right. So we'll have those tests here today. In fact, our big test, our big special that we're doing, we know next month is Cancer Awareness Month. And so one of the big things that we're going to be doing is full body thermography. How many of you have done thermography before? So that's going to be another one thing that we'll be doing today. And we're going to have a lot of fun. And I'll tell you one other thing we're going to do. We're going to brag on God today because we got some awesome things to share with you. So we'll be doing that as well, too.
Awesome.
You ready?
I am.
All right, I love you. We'll see you later. I'm going to take over later.
Okay.
He doesn't share the stage very well, you guys.
Stop
you just need to know that about my husband. I love you.
Mwah. Anybody knows that once you start speaking, I just go, just start listening. Okay, so today, let me start with this first of all. You're going to learn some information that's radically different than some of the things that you've heard in the past, especially mainstream stuff. If I do this right, you should almost feel like there's like a conspiracy theory or why didn't I hear this before? Who here has come to my office in the past, especially if you guys are patients, and you heard some things, especially through your orientation about the nerve supply, chiropractic adjustments and these things, and one of the things in your mind was, honestly, if that was true, why didn't I hear this before? Just raise a hand and see if I can hear that or see that. Yeah, awesome, perfect. And so I'm gonna really give you guys some research today that's going to really challenge a lot of the things that you have learned in the past. And the problem with challenging belief systems is I could never bring enough science to overcome a belief. Now, who here has had that friend of yours, whether it's about chiropractic or about nutrition or whatever else, you have that friend, and as soon as you told them something that was absolutely true, that was absolutely that's something that's worked in your life, and they said, well, I mean, do you have anything to prove it? Do you have any, anybody? Raise your hand. I want to see it. Anybody that's do you have any research or anything? Right? Exactly. And so the problem with it is we have a society based on science and research. And again, I love science. I'm kind of nerdy like that. I like black and white stuff. However, the problem with it is when it comes to overcoming a belief system, there is always something that supports belief. And if I just have one thing that supports my belief, I don't care if you bring 100 things that oppose it, even if this is all true. Belief systems are like throats. If I put my foot on your throat, you're probably going to get upset and fight back, yes? And so the way that you change belief systems is you get an experience. Today is an experience. And one of the ways that we're going to help with that is, bless you, we're going to actually help overcome some of those belief systems through people's testimonies. Does it make sense? People's testimonies. Also, we're going to use research because I want you to show there is research out there for this. And I want you to leave with absolute solid things and action steps that you can start doing today so that you're not a statistic, you're not a diagnosis. You can reverse diagnosis if you come here with those, and you never have to have one to begin with. Raise your hand if you'd like that. Awesome. Some of you guys, I feel like some of you guys are like, it's morning time. I'm not sure if I had enough coffee before I got here. We are going to run, and we're going to do some cool stuff today. We're not going to be outside, but it's going to be good. You guys ready for that? Let me start with this one concept. And I hate to say they. Everybody say they. I hate to say they because it's really the powers that be. I don't believe there's a lot of, most of the time, evil people out there. But there are powers that be that would have you not, they don't want you to have, again, I hate to say they, but the powers that be would rather you not have information that you're going to get today. Would you believe that there's a possibility that there have been people that came up with protocols and procedures that have healed diseases and diagnoses that medicine has deemed impossible? It's just a possibility. You guys agree with that? Okay. Would you also agree there's a possibility that there are people that have come up with those things who've been defamed, their lives have been ridiculed, their licenses have been taken, they've lost their living, and they were discredited, and the history of all of that has been removed so that people wouldn't get exposed to it? Do you believe there's a possibility of that? Okay, so in the risk of becoming a tin hat wearing conspiracy theory, let me just absolutely just define that for you. So there's a guy named Royal Rife. He came up with a Rife machine, actually invented a lot of the microscope technology that we have today, and he actually figured out how to weaken pathogens within the body so that you could overcome them. So he wanted to weaken the pathogens and allow the body to really be able to overcome, especially end-stage diseases. Guess what they did? They took the technology, and because it was a threat to the current system, they poo-pooed it, they, quote, proved it didn't work, And then through the rest of his life, he tried to overcome the couple things that, quote, proved it didn't work. And they defamed the guy, and he died basically penniless. And all the people that he'd helped basically disappeared, right, from history eventually. There's another guy, Dr. Max Gershon. Who's heard of Gershon therapy? So I'll tell you guys. Gershon therapy is basically nutrition. So here's a guy. Listen, I'm going to sit and listen for just a minute. Here's a guy who Einstein said was probably the most brilliant mind in our age. Got it? Dr. Max Gershon. Who here? So out of everybody here, almost 100 people here, we have possibly maybe 10 people that heard Max Gershon. And Einstein said he was the most brilliant scientific mind of our age. You see, that doesn't sound right. I mean, Einstein. Anybody think that Einstein was probably the most brilliant? And he's saying that guy's the most brilliant. I think we should listen. Well, Gershon took his amazing brain power, turned it towards something other than what everybody else was doing, like going into pharmaceuticals and medicine, yada yada yada. And he said, I just want to understand how this thing works. He goes, how can I eat a carrot and in a matter of hours that carrot has become eyeball? Anybody else think that's pretty amazing? That's amazing. And so he started looking at all the pathways, and he's so brilliant, he could literally see all the biochemical pathways of the entire body and how things worked, and actually revolutionized our understanding of how the body works. And because he started to understand this nutrition in every form and facet, he actually saw some people and friends and family and colleagues who were sick, and he'd be able to do some tests and figure things out, give them nutrition, and it would literally rapidly reverse their disease. And as more and more people came, they started getting cancer patients. And everybody knows that if you have an end-stage cancer patient, that nothing else can be done. And when those people reverse their cancer, people start what? They start talking. And so people with end-stage life-threatening cancers started pilgriming towards him and said, well, I'm going to die anyway. I get healed there or I die there. And he started reversing not just dozens, but hundreds and then thousands of phase 4 cancer patients. He became so impassioned in the fact that people are suffering with something that can be done that he said, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong that people suffer when there's something else that can be done. And it went so far that he began to fight the current system. And who knows that the Goliath of the system is kind of hard to fight. And so because his results are absolutely rock solid, 100 times better than any conventional cancer treatment, he went all the way up to Congress and he testified in front of the United States Congress. Now, just stop for a second. If you got me in front of Congress and I could show you how all this has been working, all the people whose diseases are gone and reversed and all are off their medications and all these things, I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And then guess what? I wouldn't come by myself and just be some ragtag charismatic chiropractor. I'd bring all of you and I'd show you, look what his is, look what hers is, look what hers is, look at the meds that she's off of, look at the meds that he's off of. And I'd go through all of this and I'd prove it. And that's exactly what he did. He brought dozens and dozens and dozens of cancer patients who were the worst of the worst, and they were completely reversed of their cancer. He got so many congressmen excited by the end of the several days or whatever else that they struck the gavel to end all the hearings. He was like, we have to change things. And Max Gershon, can you imagine what I would be like walking out of there? I'd be like, yes, drop a mic. I mean, policies have to change now. So all these things have to come in motion now. Guess what happened the next day? Nothing happened. Nobody was talking. There was no change in policy. There was no beginning. So, it's a big system. Maybe we're not going to push it too fast. Maybe it takes a while to turn. You ever heard turn the Titanic around? It takes a while. But guess what happened after the first month? Nothing. Guess what happened the second month? 6 months later, a year. Nothing has happened, and then nobody was talking about it at all. In fact, the reason I bring all this up is to say that there are people that don't want you in the room. They don't want you. I say again, don't want to say they, but powers that be, because it's not evil people. It's just a system that supports and protects itself. And what ends up happening is, guess what? The congressional record of that testimony in front of Congress is our history of our nation. So there's a history, there's a record kept of every single congressional hearing. Do you guys know that? And it's in the Library of Congress, and it's in all the national libraries throughout the country. And guess what happened to the congressional testimony of Dr. Max Gershon in every single cancer patient of that week? It was completely erased, not only in the congressional library, but every national library in the country. You physically cannot find one stitch, audio, visual, or typed printed at all, except for the fact that one of the Gershon people there actually audio taped it. And it still exists today. But guess it, it's even bigger than that. They actually poisoned him 2 separate times with arsenic trying to kill him. But he actually used what he knew about the body, and he healed himself. In fact, as he got to the end of his life, he kept thinking, because his brain worked so... Imagine being Einstein and trying to figure out how to get other people to think like you. Can you imagine how lonely that would be? So he was trying to figure out how to get this to other people, and so he goes, I just got to write it down because I'm not going to be here forever. So he started writing the book to help people understand what he had learned. And on his deathbed, he's almost finished with this book. And somebody stole the manuscript and destroyed it. And on his deathbed, had to start over from the first of the book to finish it all the way to the last. And then when the books were produced, they were destroyed as fast as they were produced. Now, my point in saying all this is, there is powers that be that do not want you to get this information. Do you believe that? Yes. And I'm telling you that not to say, welcome to my conspiracy theorist world or whatever else. What I want you to get is, if somebody doesn't want you to know it, here's the thing. Put your hand up for me. I didn't tell her I was going to push. But as soon as I pushed, she did what? She pushed back. If you tell me I can't have something, guess what I officially want right now? Exactly what you told me I can't have. And I'm going to ask the question, why don't you want me to have it? Right? And let me be very clear why this is. And again, it's not evil people. It's a system that supports itself and protects itself. Okay? Again, we'll go through a lot of great things that really, really work today, but you got to start with one understanding. It's a system that supports itself and what? Protects itself. Okay? So there is a lot of information we're going to go through, but there's another place that you weren't supposed to ever find out about. And this is the Sears Chiropractic Hospital. This was the largest hospital in the world at one point. And it was all run by the 5 essentials that you're going to learn today. The whole thing was based on those 5 essentials. Can you imagine that? So it wasn't based on just treating illness and symptoms. It was based on one thing, focusing, harnessing, and enhancing the health of the individual. And as a result of that, they had state-of-the-art kitchens where they had never done stuff like this before, or organic food. They took people outside. They had patients help other patients, so they had a purpose. And they got fresh air, and they worked out, and they did all these different things. And guess what happened? What do you think the results were like? They were so radically above everything on the face of planet Earth that it instantly became a threat. And Dr. Spears spent every single day that he was in practice with this hospital under litigation. Did you get that? You weren't supposed to know about this, but we're going to bring it back. And some of you guys have heard our vision before and our mission, and some of you guys haven't. And our vision is not just to open up an office and fill it up full of people and eradicate disease in our community. It's to do that in a lot of communities. And it's to do that through building lots and lots of clinics and lots of team. And you are part of that team. But it's also to build this again. And who thinks that we ought to have some hospitals that are focused on health, not just disease? Anybody else? And do you think that if you actually had a hospital in the area that actually did critical care and emergency care, but it had medical doctors, nursing staff, hospital administrators that all had one focus as a priority, which is the health of the individual, not the disease treatment of the individual, who thinks that when an ambulance came to pick you up and they asked you which hospital you wanted to go to, which hospital do you think most people would want to go to? That one. And so this is something what it's going to look like. And it's going to take 34 million of you. I know it seems like there's no way it's going to happen. Well, a little shepherd boy couldn't kill a giant that was 9 feet tall either, but that happened with a rock and a sling. And I can tell you this, 34 million people do not want to live in this system. They do not want to be drugged the rest of their life. They want to live healthy. They want to believe for hope instead of, I'm going to keep losing as I age. And as a result of people desiring it, it's going to come to pass. With the passion and the mission of that lady right there, and then me supporting her, and then you guys supporting us both, and then you guys taking responsibility for going to change it, guess what's going to happen? We are going to build many, many clinics, and not just a hospital here, but in every major city, first of all, in the entire country, and we are going to change how healthcare is viewed and delivered. Can I get an amen? That's the mission. So how do we do that? We change that through experience and getting you to change a belief system, and we're going to do that starting out with going through how we do this. Well, the first thing you do is you got to get some resources that work. Now, listen, I know we sell resources. Some of you guys, literally, I had 2 of you guys this week go, well, I'm coming, and we want you guys to get resources. Here's the thing. I want you to get resources, and I want you to get information, but it's about taking action. And the reason that we want you to get resources is because we want you to take action. And what did I tell you? It's going to sound like that there are some radical things that I should have known this before, or surely that can't be true. One of the reasons that I want you to get resources is because the resources that we have, it's not a sales pitch. It works for bringing you to another level of health and eradicating disease. And if you're in disease, getting you back out of that again. Does that make sense? And so make sure you get this. So you want to fill this out. Everybody should have one of these. At break, just hand it to them. They'll fulfill it and they'll give it to you. If you don't have that filled out, it'll take us about an hour to get through everybody getting their products and their stuff. Let's talk about the problem. Here's the problem as I see it. You ready? The problem as I see it is everybody's focused and trying to make a villain out of a symptom so that we have a solution for a symptom. You guys with me? Let's just leave autoimmune and cancer, which I'm going to hit those things really big today, and then the flu, which is coming up. I want to destroy that and burn that to death. But what I want to do is let's just take that sickness off the playing field. Let me use an example of something else. My mom was a teacher actually still is a teacher. She retired and then she's still doing it. But let's go to a grade school today. Can we go to a grade school? In your mind, just go to a grade school. Think about kids, 4th, 5th graders. Let's go put them on the playground and then have them come out of recess. They come off the playground and let's say half the kids' arms are broken. And then I put a whole other group of kids on the playground. They come off and half of their arms are broken. Then I put another group of kids on the playground and half of their arms are broken. Let me tell you what I'm not going to do. I am not going to create a broken arm, or I'm not just going to do this, a broken arm support group. I'm not going to create research just on how to heal broken arms faster. Does that make sense? There's a lot of things that I may do as well, but let me tell you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go on the playground and see why in the heck are all these kids coming off a playground with broken arms, and I'm going to fix that first. Can I get an amen on that? It's about not fighting. Let's not be broken arm focused. Let's not fight broken arms. Does anybody want to do that anymore? How's that working for us? Let's just fight the broken arms. No, let's go fight the playgrounds that are breaking the arms. That's a good fight. You are always going to lose trying to fight cancer, trying to fight autoimmunity. Do you know what makes me absolutely, do you want to just be transparent for a second? Just not Dr. David Erb, but David Erb. I go to my gym or I go to my health food store, or I go to natural grocers, and they're actually not doing that much, but you stop by any other store, Walgreens or wherever, and it says there's a walk, and we're going to do what? Fight autoimmunity, or fight autism, or fight cancer, or fight pediatric, yada, yada, yada. And guess what that means? It means to raise more money to research, metaphorically, how to heal broken arms faster. And not one person is going back over here going, what the heck is going on with all these arms getting broken? Yes or no? So where has it left us? It's left us now where we're the sickest country on the face of planet Earth where you don't go to the bathroom outside. And everybody that's not here this morning is literally calling and begging the United States government and all the powers that be to do more research. In fact, I dare you to go someplace today. They're going to ask you to round up your amount to what? To raise money to fight something again, which is going to do what? More of the same. And again, let's just look at cancer. 8.8 million people a year die from cancer. Now, 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women are going to die of cancer. Is it getting better or worse? Say it. Is it getting better or worse? It's getting worse. And the stats now say that it's going to be 57% worse than it is right now. 57% worse than what? Like, what are you talking about? There's a guy named Otis Brawley. Everybody say Dr. Otis. Dr. Otis is the Chief Medical and Scientific Officer and the Executive Vice President of the American Cancer Society. I say that 3 times. That was a practice. Do you think he knows a little bit about cancer? Do you think he actually is somebody of noteworthy? He literally said in a book recently, I want to quote him. I don't want to misquote him. The book is called How We Do Harm. Did you get that? He says, I believe that we should be both ashamed and furious at our healthcare system, and doctors deserve a lot of blame for this mess that we are in. He says the current course is not sustainable, and healthcare costs will continue to rise. This is the lead medical doctor in our country. Healthcare costs will continue to rise until the economy crashes. But most doctors won't question the system. They are sleepwalkers and not evildoers. So I didn't say go to your doctor, walk in and go, hey, how you doing? Bam! Smack him in the face. I can't believe you. No, it's not doctors. But what did I say? The system supports and protects the system. Got it? And now, what do you think? Do you think the truth is on our side? Do you think the truth is on our side? Wait a second. But it's not out there. But the truth, do you think the truth actually proves what we're talking about today? In fact, watch this. And some people don't think there's science. Here's science. Here's the Journal of Applied Kinesiology in June 2000. How long ago is that? Almost 20 years ago. This is what they said. Just by two of the essentials that we teach, just two of the essentials, you could prevent, watch this, you could prevent 91% of obesity and diabetes, 50% of all heart disease, 63% of congestive heart deaths, 50% of all deaths from strokes, 60% of all breast cancer deaths, 72% reduction in lung cancer, even in smokers, and 62% of all Alzheimer's prevented just by two of the 5 essentials that we teach. That's science. If I had a drug that I could sell you today that would do that, you would be lined up around the block to sell it with me. Would you agree? And the reason I say that is because the most powerful thing that you're ever going to get is just supporting the power that's already in you. So let me be also clear. The other thing that we're doing today is I'm replacing fear with hope. I preached a message on hope one time, and biblically, hope is a positive imagination for the future. So I'm just expecting good things to happen. Remember when you were a kid, when you were 4, and you woke up on Christmas morning, and before you were really awake, you just woke up excited, and you didn't even know why you're excited. You're like, God, right? And then you realized it was Christmas, and that's why you were excited? I'm maybe the only one. Was it the noise? The noise got you? That's my excited sound. The point is, hope is a positive imagination for the future. I used to think that the opposite of hope was dread, like you're just not. There was going to be negative in the future expectation, right? I thought that would be. It's more insidious than that. Do you know what the opposite of hope is? It's actually despair. And let me tell you something. Despair is, by definition, there is nothing I can do to get out of the situation I'm in right now. And before you say I'm not there, guess what? That is everything that you've been spoon-fed since the day you were born. Because how many of you came to my office, don't raise your hand, and said, it runs in my family? How many of you came in and said, well, this knee, I am this old? And you used an age thing, or a luck thing, or my diagnosis, because this diagnosis is not reversible. And you've been spoon-fed that, and what it does is it puts you to where you have no expectation for things to be better in the future. And let me tell you something. I came to work 21 years ago, and I stay at work every single day so that I continually kill that root growing up in you every single day. And I'm going to have you show up to every single workshop, and you go, I've seen that before. I've been there before. And for you guys that said that, what did I say? Show up anyway. Do you know why? Because I want to encourage you continually and kill that root continually so that you have a hope. And again, I don't want to preach it. There won't be an altar call, but it says we serve the God of hope. And if we have a hope and expectation for the future, guess what? It's a better life. And if you don't believe that, let me prove it to you. Again, my mom is a great example. At 68, she couldn't move, had arthritis so bad she couldn't hardly lift a coffee cup, literally. And through doing the things that you're going to start doing today, if you're not doing them, now she's 75. Don't tell her I told you how old she is. But she's now 75, running marathons, doing triathlons, doing CrossFit workouts where she can do 10 pull-ups on those little arthritic hands that aren't arthritic anymore. And that knee that was, quote, quote, bad did 26.2 miles last year on a full marathon. Why? It's because your body is awesome and you deserve to stop living below your potential. Did you get that? Some of you guys need to amen, shout it up. I don't know where you were raised, but like I went to a church in Africa, and if I'd have said that in Africa, they would just raise the roof and they'd have gone crazy. But I'll just stay silent for just a little bit. Yes. But I also want to say this. There's another book. There's another book that says, the name of the book is Doctors Are More Harmful Than Germs. That's a good book. I'm going to read it because I don't want to misquote. It says, I would like to present to you a simple fact that in 1910, the medical establishment that we take for granted became the dominant healthcare philosophy, gaining the majority of our financial backing and support. Yet we still have not seen a definitive cause or produced a single cure for chronic disease. I'm talking about diseases such as cancer, colitis, irritable bowel, asthma, MS, Alzheimer's, infertility, etc., etc. One might argue we've found correlations, but we have certainly not found cause. Get this, medical schools teach students that the human body has no intelligence of its own, and that the body is just a machine to support the brain. Parts are replaceable, and some parts are not even needed. Medical students essentially learn that the human body is exempt from the laws of nature. How ludicrous. So when you go to your doctor and you say, well, maybe we should just wait this out, it has already been determined for that doctor that that's dangerous for you, and it's absolutely a waste of time. I had somebody come in with their child the other day, massive vaccine reactions from all the vaccines, completely covered head to toe in sores and eczema and just in inflammation, nonverbal, can't talk, just itching inside and out. And literally she asked the doctor, well, do you think there's something nutritional that we can do? And this is exactly what her doctor said. Nutrition has nothing to do with this and will offer no benefits whatsoever. Eat anything that you want. I had a cancer patient come in 3-4 years ago who was going to MD Anderson. And he came in, and I actually said, we need to start you on a live juice regimen as soon as possible that's alkalizing, and it's going to give your body support to get strong again. So your immune system, which is the only thing that can fight cancer, is supported. And so he went, and he started it, and when he went back to his MD Anderson doctor to get his another round of chemo, and again, I'm not going to talk for or against chemo today, but he went down there, and guess what the doctor said? Quit doing the green juice. It will reduce the effectiveness of the chemotherapy. And no, it gets worse. He said, and the chemotherapy will make you tired, so I would like you to try and drink about a liter of Mountain Dew a day to help you with your energy. I'm not making this up. But because he's an expert in cancer, guess what he did? He stopped the juice. He started drinking 1 liter of Mountain Dew a day, and he died not too long after that. Now again, would he die without it? I don't know. Won't ever know. But I can tell you this. You have to start to question the people that give you, even me, but that give you a direction and say, does it line up with this body being able to heal and self-regulate? Does it line up with this body being fearfully, wonderfully made and healing itself? Does it line up with the fact that I have an innate intelligence and I'm supporting that, or am I working against it? You have to ask yourself that question. Who has to ask that question? Who has to ask that question? You do. Exactly. Now, that's the problem. Well, let's just start with cancer. Okay? Maybe. Okay? Do you trust your body? Everybody say trust. You have to start with one thing. When it comes to developing lasting immunity, you have to have trust that your body's going to do the work. I remember I had a mom come in one time, and every single time their kids have ever had a fever or a cough or a sniffle or an ache or any kind, guess what she did? Quickly ran to the doctor and got an opinion. Do you see how fast that was? I just knocked that off without even being over there. She'd quickly go to the doctor and she'd get antibiotics or she'd get anti-fever drugs, Tylenol or whatever else, right? She came to my office, got adjusted, and for like 2 or 3 months, the kids were not sick at all. And she goes, and they were in the hospital every single month, or the emergency room every single month. So she's like, this is working, until she came in one day. She goes, Dr. David, it's what? It's not working. And she's basing on that the fact that her son had a really good fever going. And she was scared to death. Where'd the fear come from? It came from what the doctors, and it came from what she's been taught. Who here is taught? Who has ever heard that a fever can be very dangerous? Now, I guess at some point in time it can if it goes high enough. What's the defining line? When is it dangerous? Come, give me a number. I get 108 over here. Do you see the confusion? And most people would say about 103. Would you agree? Right? My daughter had 107 fever for a week. It's child abuse. Don't come get me. The point is, we adjusted her through it. She's fine. But this mom, he had 101, 102, and it wasn't going away. She said, I got to give him something. He's so miserable. I got to give him something. And I don't want your child to be, or you to feel bad either. But she didn't do it. She got adjusted, and then it went up to 103.4 or something, which she almost jumped off a cliff. She was like, I can't handle it. But guess what? Then within hours, it was gone, and he completely healed. And she came in crying on Monday. And I walked her through it through the weekend. But she came in crying on Monday. She goes, that is the most freeing experience I've ever had in my life, except for Jesus Christ. She said, I've never known that my kid's body could heal on its own when he was sick. And I just can't tell you how amazing it feels to be able to walk through that with him. Do you guys get that? So the first thing you have to do is what? Trust your body. Now watch this. This is crazy. These are cancer cells, and those are your cells. You should feel sorry for bacteria, you should feel sorry for viruses, and you should feel sorry for cancer. It's like having vicious ninjas in there from Pulp Fiction or something, killing things. This is, I'm going to show you here in a second, there's going to be a white blood cell chasing a bacteria here in a second. A white blood cell that does not have a brain, does not have hands, does not have eyes, and it's going to chase a bacteria around in your body, and this is going on all the time. Watch this. Look at this. Are you seeing that? And here it comes. You're not getting away. Bam! Eat you, and you're dead. Now, is that amazing? Have you guys ever thought about the fact that you really are doing that every second of the day? There's cancer cells, and you'll see that play here in a second. But watch this. Now, what controls every instant of every second, every function of your body? What system? The nerve system controls every single function in your body. So even though that white blood cell is not connected to a nerve, it actually has neurotransmitter receptors on the surface. And as it moves, your body is literally going like this. No, go this way. No, go this way. No, go that way. No, go this way. And it's constantly working based on what information is coming into your brain and out of your brain every instant of every second like this. Is that amazing? Now here's the crazy part. It not only just tells it where to go like this and guides it, it calls its brothers and sisters in. Who here knows if you had a bunch of bacteria, you'd want a whole lot more white blood cells and other killer cells and everything. So then it can call those in. Is that pretty cool? Now, if you had 100,000 bacteria sitting right there, right, and they were colonizing, they were dividing, would you be scared if you had 50 million white blood cells coming to the rescue? No. Now watch this. What's the difference between early stage cancer cells and bacteria? Other than a metabolic change in the cell, there is no difference whatsoever. They will find it and they will kill it. The difference between cancer and bacteria or viruses is cancer is your cell. And the only reason that it can get a leg up on you is if you're sick enough to let it adapt. And I'm going to go into that next. Can I go into cancer a little bit? I usually in the fall go through cancer, and I have 3 hours just on cancer, and I'm not going to do it today. I just want some of you guys that have fear, because some of you guys have been told if you live long enough, you're just going to have what? Cancer. Guys are told if you live long enough, you're going to have prostate cancer. Ladies, here's the crazy part, that actually it's convinced it. Do you know that right now, having an awareness campaign, 42% of women actually believe that in their lifetime they will have breast cancer, which is 3 times the national current average of people that will have breast cancer. This is how we get there. This is the 5 essentials. This is where I get spizzed up and excited. These 5 essentials are the core understanding of how to work with your body. Now, that's not what we teach. This is the core of inside of you what works. And today you're going to learn the cutting-edge nutritional techniques, the cutting-edge detoxification techniques, how to work and go through the fall and not fall in the same prey as everybody else. But here's the crazy part. Do you think it's just in this office, or are there more offices like this? Does anybody know how many patients we see a week throughout all Max Living offices? Does anybody know? 650,000. We're the largest movement in healthcare on the face of planet Earth right now. And it sounds like it's a good number, right? 650,000? Yes! But when compared to 34 million, not yet. But we're getting there. And now, how do we train and learn and go through this? It starts with the germ theory. Okay, I'm going to get to cancer. But germ theory started with Louis Pasteur. Anybody heard of that guy? So he was a microbiologist who is focused on what? Microbiology, which is on the germs. And so if you go to a plumber, the plumber is going to say you need plumbing work, right? If you go to a microbiologist, he's going to be focused on the bacteria. So guess what he said causes disease? All disease is caused by the germ. That's what he said. That's where we get the germ theory from. And he had a friend of his, literally it was a friend, and they were both French scientists. And this other guy, Claude Bernard, was a physiologist, talking about the internal physiology of the body. And guess what he said was the cause of disease? He said it was the lack of balance in the body's ability to adapt and overcome things, which was the cause of disease. And on his deathbed, guess what the father of the germ theory, Louis Pasteur, said? Guess what he agreed with? Which theory? He actually agreed with Claude Bernard on the seed, the soil, not the seed, being the cause of disease. But here's the thing. Every bit of medicine right now is focused on what? On the seed, on the bacteria, because it's got a cure. Who here, raise your hand if you've heard me say this before, and I know it's gross. Who here's heard me say that I could lick every single hand every day in the fall and I would never get sick? Good. And guess how many years you've been here? 10 plus. How many times have you seen me with the cold or the flu? She's never seen me with the cold or flu. Now, there's power in your words, too, but I'm not going to get into that today. But the point is, I walk into a room and bacteria and viruses die. Do you know why? Because this body kills them. And guess what? So does yours, but it has to be powerful enough. So here's the problem. I hear this all the time. You know what? I went to school today, and I found out that everybody was sick. Like I had a grade school teacher come in. Half her class was sick with something, right? So she goes home, and guess what? She gets sick, and she blames it on what? The germs from these dirty kids. Not really. But my first question to her was, okay, well, what about the other half of the kids? So why didn't they get sick? And there was a guy that asked the same question, Dr. D.D. Palmer, who his whole life revolved around one question. Why do some people get sick and other people don't get sick? Why does one person get cancer and another person not get cancer? Why does one person get diabetes and another person not get diabetes? Who is that one person in your family that just is unstoppable and they smoke and drink and never eat anything good and they're still living and playing golf at 95? Anybody got that person? You're like they're pickled or something. You can't kill them. And then you have everybody has the experience of you're like, how did that happen to that person? They eat right, they look great, they love God. Like, how did that happen? Anybody have that? That question haunted D.D. Palmer. He said, there's got to be a reason. And he actually, without knowing it, supported Claude Bernard's theory of it being the soil and not the seed. And D.D. Palmer is the one who walked into his office. He had a healing center and had been reading manuscripts on adjusting the spine. And a guy walked in who's the janitor, and he had gone deaf years before when his back went out. So he's lifting, his back went out, and he went, ooh, and went deaf completely. And so after reading this, it just happened recently about reading this manuscript about how to adjust the spine and how the nerves are related. He goes, hey, listen, he goes, this may sound really weird. I don't really know what I'm doing, but could you help me if I could just adjust your spine right where that's kind of out of place right there and maybe see if you get your hearing back? And the janitor let him do it. And guess what happened? Got his hearing back, and that's how chiropractic started. Get that? Now again, the germ theory, has it been proven? Has it been disproven? Let me be very clear. Everybody go like this. In fact, if it was absolutely true, none of you would be here to listen to me today. You would be dead. The only thing that makes you sick is when your body is not strong enough to overcome it. So does the flu make you sick? Do bacteria make you sick? No, a sick person gets the flu or have a bacterial infection. Does cancer make you sick? No, a sick person who's been developing sickness for years develops cancer. And again, I'll get into this, but cancer is after you have coughs and sniffles and symptoms for a long time. Is a fever a bad thing? You sure about that? If you had 103 fever today and you walked in to get an adjustment, some of you guys, well, don't bring them in. Well, just so you know, I'm going to have them come in, and they'll go to room 2, and I'll clean the table, because some of you guys still are not strong enough to handle a bunch of viruses, bacteria. But the first thing you'll tell me when you have a lot of coughing or a big fever is you say, man, I'm really what today? I'm really sick today. And who here has heard me counteract that? You actually mean you're expressing a bunch of symptoms? So guess what I'm going to tell you? You're expressing symptoms. Do you know what the United States government says about fever? If you give your children a fever reducer every time that you have a fever, they actually have a 200% more likely chance of having cancer in their lifetime, because you're not letting their bodies actually develop an immune system. Do you know what the Harvard Medical School Foundation says about reducing a fever in children? That if you reduce a fever in children who have like sepsis or pneumonia, they're more likely to die. They're going to die. Like, that's what they say. That if you reduce a fever, a person who has the flu, it lasts longer. If they have pneumonia, it lasts longer. They're saying that you should let a fever run its course. How about coughing? Who's here had a cough way longer than you wanted? If it was longer than 15 minutes, you raise your hand. But some of you guys have come in 3 weeks later, you're still coughing. Is coughing necessarily a bad thing? No. Now, let's not be silly. If it goes on months and months, let's go get that checked out. Go get imaging or something done. But do you realize that having a viral infection, which 95% of all lung and coughing stuff is not viral, has to go on a lot of times 3 to 4 weeks. Right? It actually stimulates the mucus and it gets rid of it. Here's the other thing too. Some of you guys have come in and go, well, I'm coughing, but it's productive now. It's green or yellow. So what's that mean? I had to take what? The antibiotic. Do you know what that actually means? When it turned yellow or green, do you know what the yellow or green color is? I don't want to get gross. It's actually interferon. That's what that is. Interferon is a tagging system that helps activate all of your immune system to go in and kick tail. In fact, you know what? It actually stimulates so much that cancer patients are paying $10,000 per injection of interferon so it stimulates their immune system. And you got people spending $29 to buy suppressants that actually dry all the interferon up. It's like they should switch places or something, right? It's like you need that. Like you come in, I dare you to come in with a cough and tell me it's green. Guess what I'm going to say? Hallelujah! Yes! That is awesome because they're not bad things. And then moving forward. And a fever, yes. What does a fever do actually? What does a fever do? Fever actually oxidates the bacteria virus. It kills it. So we want to have high fevers. Coughing clears it up. Also, the agitation of the bronchioles and the mucus keeps bacteria and viruses from making a protective slime layer around themselves when you agitate it. So when you guys are coughing, your body's doing exactly what it should. And listen, there are some healthier things you can do. If you guys have not downloaded the ebook on home remedies, we have a home remedy that helps with when you ever, anybody have like the postnasal cough drip, the drip that causes the cough, and like you get this tickle, 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 and you can't stop coughing. That's because of the inflammation in part of the throat causing a tickle. There's things that you can do. There's a home remedy. It's easy stuff. And just download that book and we can go through it. All right. Next. Come on. Downside of decongestions: anxiety, increased blood pressure, heart arrhythmia, suicidality, thyroid issues. If you're having thyroid issues, don't you ever take a decongestant. I would tell you not to anyway. But also, guess what the studies have proven over and over again? The studies prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that there's no benefit in taking a decongestant. Did you get that? Long-term benefits. Not going to make. Actually, you'll be sick longer because you'll leave all the junk in there. Saw this the other day, Dr. Kimberly. We were driving, and she saw this, had to take a picture. Who's seen this yet? Where you're at? Come on, raise your hand if you've seen this. Good, yeah. So it's a free flu shot. So did you get one? You were like, I'm not raising my hand after that. So she posted this. I want you to see this. I didn't make this up. This is on our site. You can go see it. But it says, Sarah Bratton said, I had a friend who died last Friday night. She hasn't been sick, but had gotten both a flu and a shingles shot on Friday afternoon. Her husband woke up in the middle of the night, and she wasn't breathing and was already dead. The shots were the only thing out of the ordinary. Get that? And do the shots help? I mean, your doctor's going to say you need to go get that. Who's the last people that were supposed to get vaccinated 25 years ago? The very, very young, the very, very old, and the pregnant. Who's the first people that go after right now? The very, very, and the pregnant. And let's just talk about the flu shot. What does the flu shot actually say? It actually says safety and effectiveness has not even been proven or established in pediatric patients. It says that there's thimerosal, a mercury derivative, in it. And it says that carcinogenesis, so cancer-causing ability, mutagenesis, and imparity of fertility has not been evaluated. Here's the crazy part. Read right here. It says vaccines have not been correlated with a protection from the flu. So what the heck are we doing anyway? And that's the insert. Has anybody ever been given the insert when you took a vaccine or a flu shot? Has anybody ever been given the insert? You know, that's against medical practice. You're supposed to be given informed consent. Did you guys know that? And again, raise your hand so I can see it if you've been given the insert to show you the informed consent. Not one of you? Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. So, again. Yep. Okay, so here's the shot. So we're going to give you the greatest flu shot you could ever have. So who would like some fresh green juice? Anybody want some fresh green juice? From Trader Joe's. I want to thank Trader Joe's for being a part of our community that's awesome and always supporting us in the mission and developing and growing what we're doing. But let me tell you something. Do you think that this possibly has a better effect on preventing the flu than a flu shot? Absolutely 100% and twice on Sunday. So don't wait for Sunday, though. So get to it. So you guys, I'm going to keep going. You guys just take your flu shot. So if somebody asks you what you did today, you said, I went to Dr. David's and got a flu shot. Watch what happens to their face. Yeah, maybe don't say that. Good. Yeah, I got to get there. All right. So what is cancer? Everybody say adaptation. It's your body adapting to an environment. Who here has heard that it's genetic? Raise your hand. Less than 2% of disease is genetic, or cancer is genetic. And here's the thing. You might actually have genes that predispose for an increased risk, but guess what? It does not mean you have to have it. Who here knows that it's an environmental factor issue, right? And what are environmental factors? Diet, lifestyle, including exercise, home exposures, work exposures, could be pollution in general. Who here knows that just stress in itself can actually cause oxidation that will lead to cancer? A lot of it will. But let me really get into cancer a little bit, okay? Can I do that? I like chalk talk, so I'm going to get into some chalk talk right here. How do we know what cancer is? Well, if you have a friend that's got cancer or a family member that's had cancer, they got a PET scan. You guys know what a PET scan is? What is a PET scan versus like an MRI or CT? PET scan is basically where they give you what's called a radioactive dye. They give you a radioactive dye, goes in, and cancer cells take that up, and then you get a scan, and the actual cancer glows like this. That's cancer. Actually, let me just hit that like this. It's advanced cancer. And the reason is it's a metabolic disease. I'm telling you all this, guys, because I don't want you to have fear about cancer. Okay? I want to replace fear with hope. Cancer is a metabolic disease. Everybody say metabolic? It's a metabolic disease. It's changed because something happened to create a change in the metabolism because it had to. So it's not that your body made a mistake. It's that it had to do something to protect itself. So let me do this. First of all, let's go here. Let's make a healthy cell. Let's make a cancer cell. First of all, can I get applause that I made a circle? It's really big for me. So here is healthy. Okay. Now, here's healthy. Here's cancer. Now, metabolism talks about energy production and what's going on in the cell, right? What is the small little oblong thing inside cells that make energy? Mitochondria. Look at you guys. It's awesome. So little mitochondria. And so both of these are going to have mitochondria. But we're going to have a situation where we're going to talk about how this healthy cell makes energy and how this cancer cell makes energy. You guys ready for this? So how does a healthy cell make energy? Well, it uses three things. It uses glucose, which is what? Sugar. Uses oxygen, okay? And it can also use ketones right there, like this. Okay, those are the three things it uses to make energy. And what it does is, it'll take, I'm just going to go through this. Now, this is also why you talk about ketogenic diet and these things, which is where that started with cancer patients and reversing it, because this does not use ketones. But the way that the average cell produces energy is it takes one glucose molecule plus one oxygen molecule, and it makes 36 ATPs, which is just the energy production of the molecule, energy molecule of the cell. Got it? Now, something happens to this cell, and it's not able to get some of these. Now, do you think in the American diet that there's plenty of this? Yeah. Guess what there's not plenty of? This. Due to pollution, whatever else. Everybody do this. Lean forward a little bit. Come on, lean forward a little bit. Now, watch this. Take a deep breath. Keep forward. Keep forward. Now, if I made you sit like this the rest of the day, you'd be hypoxic. Now watch this. You guys are already doing. I'm leaning back. Is it easier to breathe back? Right? So this becomes an issue, and there's lots of different ways, not just posture. What is happening is I still have enough glucose, so I'm going to take one glucose. Now I don't have oxygen, so I have to go through a different energy pathway, which is going to be fermentation. You don't have to remember all this. But instead of equaling 36 ATPs, it's going to only equal 4 ATPs. Right? Now, it's got to do something. It's still got to create energy, right? I mean, it's got to adapt. So it adapts. This healthy cell, over time, adapts, okay, and it becomes something that can at least survive by just having glucose, because it's less and less oxygen, okay? The problem with it is, if it's only producing 4 instead of 36, then it needs more what? Glucose, which is why cancer cells specifically have more of affinity for, guess what? Sugar, which is why if you guys are eating sugar, I don't care if it's just a treat day, and it's just guess what you're feeding? You're feeding cancer, and the reason we know that works is guess what PET scans use? They use radioactive sugar, and it basically goes into that first. So even when you're not doing a PET scan, even when you're just going about Joe Blow everyday life and you're eating more sugar and getting way more carbs than you should have, that's what feeds cancer. Now, what causes the lack in oxygen? Bad fats can create an issue with permeability. I'll go through that later today. And so all of a sudden we can't get oxygen in or bad stuff out. Decrease oxygen based on the fact that we have been working out. The National Institutes for Health says that you should be doing vigorous exercise 1.5 hours a week and at least 2.5 hours of other exercise and physical activity per week. Now, I'm not going to have you raise your hand, but think about it. How many of you got that this week? Right? Some of you guys are like, yes, I did. Good. We should be proud of it, okay? But can you see how cancer is just an adapting? Can you see that? Now, usually this is where I go into different treatment modalities and different things, and I'll go poo-poo on some other things. Not that I want to tell you guys what to do or not to do, but there needs to be a change. And the best conventional cancer treatment right now is less than 5% effective. That's not good odds. When that's your family, and listen, we have it's somewhere getting upwards of 650,000 people in the United States per year die of cancer. And I say a number like that, that's a number. Who cares about numbers? Watch this. Think about your son or daughter or your spouse or your best friend. That's one. Now 650,000 of those. You get that? Something has to change. And guess where it changes? Everybody go like this. I'm looking. Go like this. It changes with me. That's exactly right. Now, let's just leave cancer for a bit. I want to finish up on a couple different things before I bring her up to do some other things. But cancer is basically just this simple. Talk to any oncologist, they will tell you this. It's just this simple. It uses fuel for oxygen, great healthy cells do, and cancer doesn't. Uses fuel primarily through fermentation, has an inflammatory environment, doesn't need proper nerve supply, has acid or high alkaline environment. Most of you guys hear that cancer and acid, but there are some alkaline cancers as well. Some of you guys are drinking like just straight up alkaline water, which has been people talk about having health benefits. The problem with it is your body wants to be neutral, which means if you drink a lot of alkaline water, it's going to try and reverse that back down to neutral too, right? And so I think that they're overstating those benefits. But here's the things that you prevent cancer. Now, what I want to do is I want to get rid of cancer. Okay, I want to just talk about preventing the flu, preventing sinus infections, preventing sickness in general. Just stop making the whatever that is by getting to the cause. Okay, what does that look like? It looks like making sure that you have these 5 essentials dialed in. Okay, I had a family come in. A lady came in. She had driven like 36 hours or something crazy like this. She just driven without stopping, okay, or 24 hours or whatever it was from California back to here. Then when she got back here, she was hanging out with friends, and she sat all day long, and they were eating horrible food and partaking and having fun. And then after that, because of this situation and what she created and the inflammation, she actually had an embolism. She threw an embolism and almost died. And so the doctor said that you now have a blood disorder that causes clotting. We need to put you on what? So they said, you need to be on this drug how long? Does she have a clotting disorder, or did she create that by her lifestyle? But now that she's been on it, she's scared to get off of it. Do you see that? So we just have to get to the cause first. Specifically and safely kill cancer. What does that look like? What kills cancer? Everybody raise your hand. Yeah, did you see your body killing it? Oxygen kills it. Starving it, not giving it sugar kills it. Having a lifestyle that kills it, having peace kills it, having a nerve supply that's 100% kills it, so it organizes you, that kills it. Rebuild and strengthen the immune system. And this is where Dr. Kimberly's going to really dive in deep today. Make sure you have something to write on. You should have your little packet that you came in with. Turn on the back for notes. We're going to dive really deep into that. And I want to just finish with this. This is the most powerful system you have, the nerve supply. Everybody say nerve supply. What's it control? Everything. Now I want you to think for just a second. The amazing nerve supply goes into every single tissue and organ of your body, and it coordinates like it's an animation. How many cells do you have in your body? Any guesses? Trillions? It's even between 30 and 70 trillion cells that are organized continually. Now, I'm not talking about like, do I turn left or turn right? I'm talking about thousands and thousands of needs of every cell, every second, the ones that are moving and the ones that aren't moving. That is amazing. Now, here's the problem. If your body can't see a need, it can't fill a need, right? I may love Philip, but if Philip never calls me to say that he needs X, Y, and Z, I'm not going to support him in that, right? And as a result of that, some of you guys have had issues where you've had sickness. Who here has had that one thing happen over and over again? Whether it's a sinus infection, whether it's that kidney trouble, it's always the same kidney, whether it's a lung, whether it's the cough, whether it's the, right? You know what I'm talking about? Why is it always the same thing? It's because there's a weakness in that body. And here's the thing. Everybody, ladies, do you carry your purse on the same shoulder every time? Right? Does anybody here stay on your phone more than 5 minutes at a time? right? Who here sits at their job? Anybody ever been in an auto accident? Right? Anybody have a slip and fall in their life ever? Anybody ever been so stressed out that you felt like this? Right? Now, just walk this out. Now, live a life, and what you're going to be convinced of as age is your body being malaligned or subluxated and now choking off that magnificent, magical system that controls everything. So when I go in and adjust you in these rooms in here and I say, power's on, what am I talking about? Nerve supply. Power's on, right? Who does the healing? Me, the chiropractor or medical doctor, or you or the body of the patient? No matter what you do, it's always you, which is why we say turn the power on. Now, the vagus nerve. I just want to bring this up because it's just research you guys have never heard before. But right now, who's heard that the vagus nerve is being used to treat a lot of different diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis? They're actually doing vagus nerve stimulation. And vagus nerve basically comes out of the brain. It's one of the 12 cranial nerves. And vagus means wandering. So it goes out of the brain and it goes into all your organs everywhere. And the vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nerve supply. Parasympathetic is rest and digest, slows you down, slows the heart rate down. Imagine being on a beach, not having something going. You're like, yeah, that's good. Sympathetic nerve supply is fight or flight. I've got snakes around my feet. Right? That's sympathetic, fight or fight. This is part of the parasympathetic. What they're doing is they actually say when they stimulate it, they can actually get the body to decrease inflammation. They can take care of a bunch of heart issues. Your heart can't heal unless it can calm down and rest, even though it's still beating. And so they're reversing disease by stimulating the nerve, the vagus nerve. Guess what the best, safest stimulation for your vagus nerve is? A specific, corrective, chiropractic adjustment scientifically applied without somebody just going crank and crank on your neck. Got it? And my guess, just so you know, that's not what we do. It's a specific adjustment. We've had so many results with just this right here. And the other thing, too, is some of you guys may not know you have the issue, but if you actually are subluxated, it's like someone's tapping the nerve supply, causing sympathetic drive. And when you are subluxated like that, it drives your sympathetic fight or flight. So physiologically, you're always in mode like this, even when you're relaxed, even when you feel emotionally relaxed. Physiologically, you're heightened, which, watch this, let me show you some easy ways to know that. When you go down to sleep at night, you can't fall asleep or can't stay asleep because all of a sudden something will happen in the house, and you'll turn and you'll wake right up. And it's because your body is always hyper aware like this. It causes increased heart rate, blood pressure, decreased hormones, decreased digestion, digestive issues, depression, anxiety, etc., etc., etc. Got it? So what do you think is safer? Mechanically stimulating electrically your vagus nerve or getting an adjustment? Guess what the world will tell you? Don't you go get an adjustment. That could actually be dangerous. Right? If you don't know that exercise is good for you, you're probably in the wrong place. Here's the crazy part, though. Even though we know something's good for us, doesn't necessarily mean that we're actually doing it. Biblically, if you actually say that you know something, it means that you're currently doing it. If you say you know something but you're not, it literally negates the whole thing. People say they know that exercise is good for you. No, you don't, unless you're doing it. In fact, here's the crazy part. We all raise your hand if you agree that exercise is probably better for you than not exercising, right? If you're not here mentally, don't raise your hand. Okay. So, but the point is, yes, it is better. But here, let me give you a key to this. We know it here, but we don't know it here. A good example of that is parachutes. Everybody say parachute. Parachutes, have been around for 100 years. People have used them. If you were jumping out of a plane today, you would probably want one, yes or no? Right? But it wasn't until 1963 that they were actually, 83, that it was in the Journal of British Medical Journal that actually proved that parachutes were actually safe and effective. But before 1983, do you think that people actually used parachutes? Do you think anybody was in a plane going, is there a study that actually proves, because I read somewhere, but here's the thing, that's what exercise is. Exercise is great. In fact, I remember we were working out a lot, we were doing some different things, but it was kind of hit or miss. And I remember coming across an article one time that said if you just moved 30 minutes a day, you just walked 30 minutes a day, okay? Not Max T3, not just running or not just going to the gym or Texas Family Fitness or Pilates or some of these great things. If you just walked 30 minutes a day, okay, it would decrease breast cancer rates 63%. Literally just if you just walked. And as soon as that's exactly what my wife said, but she says that often. So Wasn't sure what she was. No, but 63%, she goes, I have no excuse. I have no excuse not to go walk 30 minutes. Here's the problem. If you can't do something perfect, most of you guys don't even embark on it. If you can't do it exactly the way that you have envisioned, which is the best, then you're not going to do it. But what we found is, she said, I feel like I want to commit to just doing something every single day if it's that easy. And so guess what? We literally embarked on a journey where for I think almost 3 years, my wife did some form of exercise every single day. And it's almost like that way right now. But we had a friend just recently, she says, #I sweat every day. And this week was her 365th day of working out every single day. Now here's the thing. Sometimes the workout is what? Going for a walk. Or maybe doing, she the other day, she got hung up with something and she only had just minutes. And she did 100 burpees. Like she actually has lost like 60 pounds. But she did, the other day, she just did squats. She did 4 minutes of squats. That's all she did, but it still counts, and she sweat every day. The issue, though, is every part of your life gets better with that essential, and I guarantee it. Now, what are some of the excuses that most people use not to work out? Okay, let's start with the first one, time. Okay, if you think you don't have time, let me just walk around with your life for a week. I'll show you have the time. I used to think I didn't have enough time as well because I was getting up and I'd adjust 200 people a day, and I would just be exhausted by the end of the day. I go, listen, I can't get up any earlier than I'm getting up. I'm already getting up at 5:30. There's just no way I can do better. And so then I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Anybody got that yet? If you're not, you will. Then I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go before work. And then so I went before work. I had to be there at 5. And so I had to get up at 4:50 or something like this, asleep driving the car, and then go work out, and then come home and we figured it out. And then because things that are important in my life, I have to figure out a way to get them in there, and I could not figure out how to study my Bible and have a quiet time in prayer with my wife. And I was like, there's no way place to put it. And I was doing the same thing, and she goes, well, is it really that important to you? And I was like, ooh, dang it. So guess what we did? We started getting up at 4:30. So now we spend 25 minutes reading and then praying together every morning, waking up sometimes a little bit too, because we put that in there. You cannot tell me time's an issue. Time's only an issue until the you-know-what hits the fan, until you get a diagnosis. So start now. You can do that pretty easy. And listen, if all it takes is 30 minutes of just some walking and decrease your likelihood of breast cancer, ladies, 63%, would that be worth it? Got it? So what's another issue people have, or excuse? What's that? Judge Judy is on. At the end of your life, listen, I worked in an emergency room. I was the guy that actually, when you died in the emergency room, I took you to the morgue. And I was the guy standing next to you, and I was also the guy doing chest compressions and helping them shock your heart. And I, unfortunately, took more people to the morgue than made it. It's not like the movies in the emergency room. And I can tell you, at the end of your life, you don't go, man, if I just had one more chance to watch one more episode of White Collar. Dang it. It never comes that way. And what you'll end up doing is going, man, that was a big waste of time. And so TV, everybody right now, is addictive. It is addictive. It's addictive for you. Your screen in general is addictive. And that TV as well. Some of you guys need to turn it off for a month. But it is killing you in a lot of ways. So that's one thing. What's another excuse? Come on. Not to exercise. Money? Yeah, well, actually, you could probably even almost go barefoot. I mean, put some flip-flops on and go for 30 minutes just walking. But run-on is awesome. You can get fitted for running shoes. But it's like you don't have to have a gym membership. But do you know how cheap Texas Family Fitness is? Like, it's like nothing a month. Like, it's, you guys spend more on toothpicks a month probably than you do on a gym membership. So money is never an issue. Also, how much does that cost to do it in your own home? Nothing at all. And Max T3 can be right on your phone, and it's like, I don't know, it's like almost nothing for a membership to Max T3. So what's another excuse? Hurt, pain. And you said pain to begin with. Pain is an issue. Watch this. Do you realize we are all told, I told you there's things that you're told that are opposite of what is true. You're told that if you're having pain, don't move that joint. But guess what we find the truth is? Actually, when you're moving the joint, it actually helps to regenerate the joint. Some of you guys, who have I sent the knee regeneration video to? Just one of you guys? Yeah, Dr. John Bergman's a DC in California, and he actually has a video on how to regenerate knees if you have meniscus and issues. And guess what you do? You move the joint, and you create a little distraction on it and move the joint, and it regenerates meniscus and joint. I mean, you can do the shoulders. Movement is what it takes. If you don't move a joint, it actually breaks down. So now the more pain or degeneration you have in a joint, it actually makes the area of making an issue smaller, like the margin of error smaller. Too much could be bad, too little could be bad. So it makes the worst things are the margin of error gets smaller, but you really do need to move. Got it? Okay? So pain is not an issue either. Also, I've had people in wheelchairs. I can't move at all. There's a big excuse. No, it's not. Guess what you can do? This. I've got a lady, I don't think they're here. She was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, right? And she is paralyzed from the face down. Well, in the last 2 months, she's got the use of her arms back. She can move her head like this, and she can push off with her feet. So guess what she's going to do? Push off with her feet, move her head like this, and move her arms like that, right? Get her heart rate moving. Make sense? You've never heard anybody reverse ALS, have you? Is that crazy? Right. I'm waiting for the news truck to show up. They haven't shown up yet. So what's another excuse? Weather? No motivation? Hey, listen, that's a real excuse, is it not? Right? If you want some great motivation, my mom gets this constantly. She takes care of her mother in a nursing home. Go volunteer at a nursing home one day, and you'll go, I'm not going there. And guess what? It's great motivation. What's another big one? Energy. Okay? Here's the thing. The only way out of having not enough energy, feeling tired and fatigued all the time, the only way out is to begin. And you got to do something. If you stay where you're at, you'll stay where you're at. You should write that one down. Got it? Other excuses? Commitment. Level of commitment. That's good. Commitment to doing the same thing that you said you would do long after the emotion of when you said it is gone. And commitment is an absolute must. The whole problem with it is most people think that commitment has to do with discipline. And most of your guys' discipline is self-hate. Guess who your worst critic is? Yourself. What if you committed to 7 days a week every single day for 365? And in the second week you missed a workout, there's no way you could get it in. Guess what you'd do? Most of you guys would. Most people would what? I'm done. Right? But what if you just sat and go, look how many days of exercise I got in. What if you were your number one cheerleader? I am rocking this thing. It is awesome. Look at me. I'm going. Listen to me. It's just that simple. You have to become your best cheerleader. If you talk to friends like you talk to yourself mentally, you wouldn't have one person around you and they'd hate you. You metaphorically black your own eyes. So guess what? Be your best cheerleader. Celebrate your successes and keep going. Got it? That's one key to commitment. It's one key to success. And it's certainly key to discipline. Got it? Now, how about exercise? Is it good? The National Institutes for Health says that if you're being physically active weekly, it increases your life expectancy 4.5 years. What's the average cancer patient pay for another month of life? Anybody? No, it's between $80,000 and $120,000 for an extra month. Did you get that? And you can get 4.5 years just by being physically active. Got that? You think it's worth it? I think it's worth it. Right? How about this? Inactivity increases death risk. Surprise! Oh my God, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Well, what you'll see is as you stop moving, you begin to age quickly. Anybody here seen somebody that actually had some kind of medical issue or something happen and they couldn't keep going like they've always been? Like some of these people are really, really active and all of a sudden you get them kind of put in a... and what did you see happening? And then what did you see also in their mind? Their mind started to kind of wax and wane as far as memory. They also became depressed. Sometimes you see some anxiety issues in these people and eventually see all kinds of things. Got it? So this is extremely important, is getting going. And here's the thing. If you're down, get up. If you're down, get up. And maybe you need people to help you. Now, cellular hypoxia. This is where we get into some good stuff again. So everybody say cellular. Hypoxia. Good. Cellular hypoxia means that a lack of oxygen at a cellular level. Now, when you exercise, you're going to increase your body's ability to take in and deliver oxygen into your tissues, right? So like people that don't exercise, they can't perfuse oxygen and your hands get cold easier or you get cold easier. When you're exercising and you're really, really healthy and you're efficient in your oxygen delivery, you don't get as cold easy and things warm back up and things are good all the time. That's what that looks like. Now, cellularly, you could have a situation to where the cell cannot get it in. We talked about that with essential fatty acids. Everybody say fluidity. Fluidity. The human body needs a 50-50. Everybody say 50-50. It needs a 50-50 ratio of omega-3 versus 6 and 9. So you got 50% fatty acid of 3 and 50% 6 and 9. The average person right now has a 5% essential fatty acid 3 versus a 95% 6 and 9. What that does is it's not as fluid. So the cell membrane of all your cells that brings oxygen through that is not as fluid, so you actually create cellular hypoxia. The ratio is the fact that we have so many bad fats. Everything in our diet today is bad fats, and it's cheap. It's essential fatty acids that are 6 and 9 are super cheap, and it comes from animal proteins that are fed grains, and they're not allowed to do their own thing, and chickens to peck the ground, and yada yada yada. Unhealthy animals generally higher in 6 and 9. If you actually look at meat that's conventionally raised, it's off the chart, 6 and 9, very little omega-3. Most people aren't getting enough omega-3, which is why one of the most important supplements you can have during the fall is what? Omega-3, right? And the right ratio, and giving it a right ratio. You can't just take essential 3 and think you're going to push your ratio. You actually have to take 50-50 to get the ratio to come closer and closer together. And I won't get into the pathways on that. But the fluidity, everybody say fluidity, of the cell membrane is how you get oxygen into it. Make sense? So I want to test this a little bit, because you guys were just running a while ago, but you've had about 12 minutes to sit and do nothing. So you guys ready for this? So we have our little pulse ox. So I want to pass around some pulse oxes, and I want you guys to experience what a pulse ox is for yourself. Now, what should a pulse ox be? Now, you don't have to go buy a pulse ox, although they're cheap now. But the pulse ox, you want to see 90. Actually, you want to see 95 to 100, and that's what you want to see as far as a healthy oxygen blood saturation. Now, this is not at the cellular level. This is at the blood level, right? So if I get up and go like this right now, and I get out of breath, I'm doing this, right? I'm flooding my body with oxygen. What's going to happen to my pulse ox? It's going to go up. What if I sit like this and get on my phone and just look at Facebook for like a half hour? It's going to go down. What happens if I am less and more less efficient in my oxygen delivery systems, which means my blood vessels are not as pliable and my essential fatty acids are out of range? Then guess what happens? We start to see everything start to drop, and you can even see blood levels start to go down. So what you want to see is right now, we got 3 pulse oxes. Please make sure they all come back to you, by the way. But I wanted you just to pass them along, pass them to the next person. All you got to do is put it on your finger, and it's going to show you your pulse rate, and it's going to show you your pulse ox. Now, if anything lower than 90, you're looking at needing to do something. Got it? If it goes down to 60, and if anybody's at 60, you're probably passed out. So then just somebody else take it off their finger so you can use it. But 60 medically says that you need to actually have supplemented oxygen. That's the level. Okay? 95 to 100 is pretty normal. 90 to 95 is kind of getting on the low area, which means you need to get your booty up and get going. Got it? So that's cellular hypoxia. This is something else that you never even knew anything about. Do you see that? Guess what that is? It's not a spaceship. It's not aliens. It is actually a hospital. The whole hospital is a pressurized hospital. The entire hospital, every room of it, is actually a hyperbaric chamber. And the way that hyperbaric oxygen works is, what does hyper mean? High. Oxygen, of course, the flooding of oxygen. What it means is, the way that the physics work is, if this room was pressurized and I could increase the atmospheric pressure, and we have enough oxygen for everybody, what will happen is just at room amounts of oxygen under pressure, more oxygen will go into your body than ever before, because the only way that you can get oxygen into your tissues is it has to ride on a cell. What kind of cell? In your blood. Red. A red blood cell carries oxygen, right? Goes in your lungs, goes back through, and you breathe out CO2, and then you breathe in oxygen, and it goes back to the tissue, and then the red blood cell gives it off, and it comes back again empty, right? That's how the oxygen system works. But when you're under hyperbaric oxygen, if you know anything about fluid dynamics and the physics of gases, under pressure, oxygen dissolves in liquid. And what ends up happening is if my fluid has dissolved oxygen in it, I can carry oxygen without red blood cells. My spit carries oxygen, my fluid in my eye, the fluid in my spine, my cerebral spinal fluid, my extracellular tissue, everything can now carry oxygen. So now, at room levels of oxygen under pressure, guess what happens to my ability to transfuse oxygen in every tissue? Goes through the roof. Now watch this. What if I have 100% oxygen in the room and now put us under pressure? Now what happens? Even more. This is even for the people that have cellular hypoxia, so their cells have that wrapping of bad fats because you've been eating French fries or whatever, Lunchables, and you can't get the oxygen in. Make sense? So now super flood those people, and it helps with cellular hypoxia too. Now the reason they got rid of this is because people were reversing their diseases left and right, and it became a threat to the system, right? So guess what they did? They actually litigated and litigated and litigated and they litigated and they litigated until this the scientist and the architect that built it ran out of money, and then they actually bought the ground that it sat on, and they bought the building, and they actually hired welders who came in with cutting torches, and they cut it into scrap metal, and they got rid of it, and then they got rid of all of their history, of all their records. They got rid of everything, right? Now, so what we did is we said, hey, that works. We have a lot of people who've gone so far into the negative that we've got to do something. Raise your hand if you've done hyperbaric here in the office. So 5, 6 of you guys. And what you'll see is you heal so much faster. I'll go get a crazy workout in, and I'll go get in the hyperbaric, and I'm not even sore. We've had several people who've had surgeries get in there. We had one person that had a hip replacement. You know how big those sutures are and the whole thing. They had staples. Went back in just for the post-op, and in 5 days, they were healed completely through and through. So the guy was like, oh, we'll just take the staples out because you're completely healed now. And it's just like, that's how fast you heal with hyperbaric oxygen. Make sense? So how long do you get benefits? Great. So however long that having transfused oxygen at that level would do. I would say that it probably lasts, it's different for everybody, but it depends on how bad you are off. But I don't think you could ever be the same once you've done it. Who knows that the high-end athletes are using this now? Yeah, so like, who's the guy that rides the bike, Lance Armstrong? Now, he started it and everybody else is doing it. They sleep in this, so they can do 150 miles in a day, go sleep in hyperbaric, and then jump up and do it again. And so they just continue to heal, continue to heal, continue to heal. It's a great thing. So that's why it's 30% off. If you've not done it and you're interested in it, go see them. We can still get that today. Now, what does it look like? Everybody's got questions about doing it. This is the inside of this unit that we have. Who here is a little bit claustrophobic? Maybe just a little bit? Some of you guys are like, I would love to do that, but I'm not good at that thing. It's pretty simple. It blows up, lots of room. You can sit in there, relax, take a nap. Every time I do it, I fall asleep because it's so relaxing in there. It's kind of got that hum like this, and you just feel like you're in an airplane. Got it? Okay, that's hyperbaric. Now, last but not least, exercise and autoimmune disorders. What's the one thing they tell all rheumatoid arthritic patients? So rheumatoid arthritis is autoimmune. It's in your joints, and now you've got pannus, and you got all these things, and every time you move it, supposedly you're breaking down your joint. So they tell you, don't what? Don't move the joint. You want to decrease your activity level. Well, Bunjali et al., and again, all these research articles are flying around my head, he actually challenged it. And he said, I think I can take rheumatoid arthritis patients and fibromyalgia and type 1 diabetics and MS and Crohn's and all these different things for autoimmune diseases. And I think, especially for rheumatoid arthritis, I think I can move the joint, and I think the body wants to move, so I think it's going to help their pain level, their inflammation level, the length of time you preserve the joint, all of it. And guess what he found? He does, but why do people with rheumatoid arthritis not want to move their joints? It hurts. It's the same reason my mom didn't want to move her knee either. But guess what the best thing for it was? Now watch this. Go back to the power that made the body heals the body, the innate intelligence. Why would having pain in my knee necessarily, and I don't want pain either, but how could it be a good thing? Because the pain is the indicator to my nervous system that my knee has a need, right? So guess what that pain signal does to my white blood cells and my inflammation markers and my ability to produce synovial tissue and cartilage? guess what it does? It increases the ability to make it and repair. So just by the fact that you're not moving, you're actually making it worse. And if you're actually taking a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory that helps with pain, great. But guess what it does also? It inhibits your body's ability to actually make connective tissue. And so although that your knee or joints feel better, guess what you're doing every second after you take that? Every joint, not just the one that hurts, is now breaking down because you cannot heal from activity of daily use, and you're actually creating arthritis. The worst arthritic patients we'll ever see are the ones that have just taken non-steroidal anti-inflammatories their whole life. And so guess when a good time to stop those are? Right now. Good. Now, as we move forward, we're going to finish this thing up. Max T3 is the easiest thing I can tell you to do. 12 minutes. If you tell me that you don't have 12 minutes in your day, I'm going to either feel very sorry for you, but I'm probably going to run to your house and go, let's just go have a day together. Because I'm going to find 12 minutes for you. So I'm like, I'll be like this. I'll be like, hey, I know you're in there. Come out. I saw you look through the eye hole. So 12 minutes. Now watch this. What does 12 minutes look like as far as exercise? It probably doesn't look like this. That's probably not the 12 minutes you're looking for. National Institutes of Health said that if you actually did short interval, high intensity duration, just short interval duration exercise, just like we're talking about, high intensity, but it's max T3, that if you did that regularly, not even every day, regularly throughout a week, you would actually improve your cardiovascular efficiency in your system 28%. What if I could go make your car get 28% more gas mileage? Everybody gets excited about that, but I tell you about working out, you're like, well, it sounds good. But what does it look like? It looks like this. And then push-ups and push-ups or whatever, and it's different for everybody. If I'm in a wheelchair, I'm going to punch in the air like this. I'm just going to get myself what? Out of breath. If you work out and you're not out of breath, you're not doing it right. Now, there's a lot, like I said, you can walk and get amazing benefits and decrease cancer rates and 42% colon cancer and all the rest, but I need you to do a little bit of both. You need to flex your cardiovascular system, and that's what Max T3 is. Did you guys know that you could get it on your phone? Anybody know that? Some of you guys that are patients for a long time ago, we can show you how to do that, and it's cheap. It's almost nothing. Got it? And you can have it. You can travel with it. You can do it at home. You can do it at your work. You can do it wherever. It doesn't almost need anything. Got it? That's Max T3. Good?
All right, guys. You guys ready to finish up strong?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So we are going to hit how to minimize toxins. We are never going to eliminate them, I'm sorry to tell you. But we are going to minimize them. And minimizing toxins is going to be critical for your ability to be able to let your immune system heal. Okay? So we're going to unpack that a little bit. Are you a little out of breath? I feel a little like them kind of blowing like this on the stage. Everybody's sucking in oxygen. I love it. All right, so how many of you, toxicity starts from birth? We actually, they tested cord blood and the umbilical cord, and there are 287 dangerous chemicals in newborn cord blood now. It wasn't like that when we were little, when we were younger, and that's why you're seeing so many babies. In fact, the number one disease for babies is actually cancer for kids. I have so many cases right now. We have several actually even in our Southlake office of people dealing with babies with cancer, and that's because this is a huge part of it. The number of toxins that the mom is taking in and then growing this beautiful, innocent miracle inside her body, and the baby can't take it. And so it stays in and grows with all the chemicals in the baby's body. So you're getting the liver, the kidney overwhelmed, brain overwhelmed, and you're seeing a lot of brain tumors and liver cancers and things like that in babies. So this is a very big deal. We really need to pay huge attention to what's going on as far as our toxicity, and they are everywhere. I'm going to get into the main places where you're going to see toxins. What do you see the first thing on the left there? So really personal care products, right? So that's the reason why we bring people like Young Living out, because I just learned this. They actually have a whole makeup line in Young Living now. I don't know if you guys knew that. I was so excited when I learned about that. They have makeup now, because they know we are actually full of toxins in our makeup. And so they've got this whole, like, one of the things that we're going to do is actually do a whole ladies' day where we come in and we do makeup and kind of a pampering kind of a situation. We're going to do that coming up here in the fall. But this whole section right here, the makeup section, is a huge area where we really have to dial in and get much better at our personal care products. Our lotions, right, our shampoos, our conditioners, things like that. That is all, those are the areas that we really have to dial in and pay really close attention to as far as our toxicity load. The second thing you'll see on there, where we're getting a lot of toxins, is what? Our cookware. I was devastated years ago when I thought I had the best pans on the planet, and I was recommending to all my patients these pans because they came from a reputable source. And so I was kind of like, I remember Catherine, she's in the other room. Hi, Catherine. I remember Catherine and Vera were telling me, like, come on, you need to, let me cook for you, let me test your pans. And I'm like, no. I was like kind of putting them off and kind of a little bit irritated about it, like, no, I got that, I got this. I finally went in and took all my pans, and I thought I'm going to show her. I got my ceramic pan, my stainless steel pan, I got the heavy one. What's the heavy one that you break your wrist on? Your cast iron. So I brought them all in. I thought, I'm going to get her. I got some good pans. And so she tested all my pans, and literally I remember us standing there when she tests them to see what's in them, if there's any chemicals in there. And my husband nearly threw up. Like the chemicals that were coming off my beautifully perfect, non-toxic pans. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, I hurt all of my patients because I told them all to buy these pans. So that was it. That was like line drawn in the sand. I'm not doing that anymore. So she's going to, if you want, get her to cook for you, and she'll test your pans. And so that's an area that we'll want to make sure we get Zoe to come up and kind of put that on our action steps here, because you're not going to do all this immediately, but just put it on your list where you start doing some of these things and really helping yourself in the area of toxins. The cleaning products, that's another huge one. Do you guys ever walk down the aisle in the grocery store and just feel kind of like the cleaning aisle, the whole chemical cleaning aisle, and just kind of feel like you're buzzed, like you've got a migraine coming, or you just feel gross? That aisle, that's all those chemicals off-gassing, and they're in the container, like they're in the box or the plastic, and you're smelling it, like it's terrible. And you haven't even got them out of the container yet. I actually have a patient that I did the metabolics, the blood and urine testing, and she cleaned houses for a living. And so she kept telling me, I got her test results back, and her test results showed that she had this number 42 leaky gut marker. And she's like, but I eat perfect. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't believe this test. And so I actually said, well, tell me about your cleaning products. She says, they're all natural. They're all organic. I said, well, I want to see them. Let me see them. So I go out to her car. She cleans like 6 houses a day. So she got all her stuff in her car, went out, and the container was almost like kind of a bleach container, I remember, and it's got a beautiful orange on the front. So it has to be organic, right? Because there's an orange on the front of it. And the little fine print on the bottom said, do not inhale or let this product get on your skin because it will burn a hole in your digestive tract.
So keep that there. Make a new
I tested her, and it said she had leaky gut. So it literally burned a hole in her digestive tract, her cleaning product. And it's interesting. I said, tell me about this cleaning product. She said, every time I clean a house and I go to the next house, when I get this out and I start cleaning, immediately my eyes burn. And then my nose runs. Well, that's a clear indication that was toxic. So don't get duped by the orange on the front of the container. That's really the moral of the story on that one. But there's personal care, there's cleaning products in here. Young Living has Thieves. I think we had a Thieves winner back there. Young Living has a whole product line of cleaners, and Norwex has a whole bunch of cleaners and cleaning like the rags and stuff. So these are things you want to make sure that you start transferring out. I would put Norwex on there. Good, Zoe, you are so good. Awesome. Okay. So these are some areas. Just make sure that you're putting in the action steps in this area as far as toxicity is concerned. And the last one, really dealing with aerosols and sprays. This is another really big one. When I test thermography and metabolics specifically, I have thermography come back and it literally says brain toxicity syndrome. How many of you know if your thermography says brain toxicity syndrome, that's probably not good. And in every case, patients who have this brain toxicity syndrome that shows up on their thermography, it's because they have things like those little smell good things that hang in their car. You guys know what I'm talking about? What are those little smell good things? The little trees, and it smells like vanillas. I see some smiles in here of like, uh-oh, I didn't think about that. Right? The Febreze, like those cool little shaped little things in there, breathing that in with the air blowing towards your nose and it's going past the air freshener and you breathe that in, that's brain toxicity. Like you're literally breathing in toxins from that stuff. So, and then also spraying your house or spraying your yard with chemicals that then you walk out in your grass and get them and soak up into your skin, right? Or you take your dogs out there and you wonder why your dogs are sick because you got chemicals on your grass. You guys with me? This is serious. The things that you breathe in are super important. Toxic perfumes, that's why there's essential oils. Like the essential oils, like you could just use essential oils for your perfumes. Like we want you to smell good, but we want you to make sure that you're not making your brain toxic. Okay, so making sure that you test those things. Now the metabolics, when I test that blood and urine, I can see if you're developing some sort of an autoimmune, a cancer marker, and in fact, I'll use a good example of one of my daughters actually be tested. All 5 of us were tested on the same day. And when we tested, we did all of our blood and all of our urine in the same day.
Thank you, Dr.
And Zanae was 3 when she tested for the first time. And when we got her test results back, she's my only kid that had never had sugar until she was 4. You know, you kind of get better at each kid, I think. But she's my only kid. So I'm like, this kid, her test is going to be completely perfect. And I get her test results back, and out of all 5 of us, she had the cancer marker. A 4-year-old, 3-year-old. She had a cancer marker. She had a toxicity marker that was from pesticides that showed up on her test. Can you see how they're linked? You breathe in a pesticide, you're going to get a cancer marker. Thank God I tested her, right? And let me tell you, the only symptom that she had was phlegm. She only had phlegm. Now, why would your body put down phlegm if you're breathing in chemicals? It's kind of a good thing, right? Your body's doing the right thing if it's breathing in chemicals. You know where she was getting them from? Pre-K, sleeping on the mat on the floor every day in the school, right? They take naps, and they spray the room with those strong chemicals because they don't want the kids to be around bugs. But instead, all those kids are breathing in cancer-causing chemicals. I just tested just this week another patient who his metabolics retest, everything looked really good, and 2 markers showed up that were flags. And one of them was from a pesticide spray that then led to some other pretty serious issues. Thank God we tested, right? We test so that we can know if we're actually putting these toxins in our body and it's actually causing things like cancer or Alzheimer's or dementia or brain fog, or right? So these are really important. Make sure you're looking at the aerosols, the things that you're spraying on your body. You're spraying in your yard, you're spraying in your home. Just be careful of that. You're in your car, you know, those are the sprays that are getting into your brain and causing autoimmune and cancers and things like that. Yes, ma'am. Same thing. Mosquito repellent is dangerous too unless you have a good, like there's some good essential oil combinations. I think Young Living even has one. And the other company, they're not here today, that they have a new mosquito repellent that their baseline is essential oils, like what they have in there. So you'll want to, when I went to Zimbabwe, I didn't take any of that kind of stuff for mosquitoes. I just put peppermint on my wrist and brought essential oils, and I had like a little mixture that I made myself. And now they have, stuff out there that you can use that's not going to be toxic for you. But that's a really good question. Yep, that's exactly right. Yep. Eucalyptus oil. Yeah, there's a lot of essential oils that are fabulous. Start just doing that. You're going to save yourself money in the long run because it costs more money to deal with an autoimmune disease than it does to get you some good essential oils to make a good, non-toxic product. Danger signs. So let's get in. There's some foods that are going to be really important. Look at all those greens. Who's allergic to greens in here?
So good.
Look at all those greens. These are all the greens you want to be consuming to help your body to be able to naturally detoxify. So let's get into what's the organ that does the detoxing? The main one, right, is your liver, right? Kidney does. So you've got a lot of detox organs. Those are your elimination channels. When we talk about your liver, it's really important to know that when your liver encounters a toxin, it has to go through 2 steps before you can eliminate it. And a lot of people I know end up with a diagnosis of a cancer of some kind simply because their detox pathways do not work. This is a simple thing you can turn on and actually allow your body to be able to heal naturally, making sure your detox pathways work. So step 1 and step 2, your liver has to go through. Each step has required nutrients in order for the step to work. Okay? So step 1 has some required nutrients. You can see here. In fact, that's why Max Living developed this product. There's 2 bottles inside. This is step 1, this is step 2. Okay? We're talking about specific foods, though. Look at the list here. If you go to step 2, I see this happen a lot. People who don't consume amino acids from the right sources, or they don't like cruciferous vegetables. They just refuse to eat them. If you don't eat them, then can you dump the toxin? If you don't dump the toxin, what does the toxin do? It's reabsorbed and does what? It causes a diagnosis because it doesn't have anywhere else to go but to build up somewhere. And I'll take it a step further. It's going to show up in areas where your spine has problems affecting the nerve function and flow. So if you can't detox properly and your detox pathways don't work and you have subluxation that goes to your lymphatic system or your thyroid, guess what you're going to show up with? A Hashimoto's or a thyroid cancer or a Hodgkin's lymphoma. You guys with me? So this is really important. That's why all 5 of the essentials are so important. Get your power turned on means make sure your spine and nerve system are clear, get them checked. And then make sure that you are able to properly detoxify these things that, guys, we have all, right now today, I bet you all just learned like, oh no, I got something in my car, I got to get that out, right? Right? We're all learning right now together. There are things that you've consumed right now that you're thinking about, oh my gosh, like I've got to change. And so while you're in the process of making sure you learn and change and you're working through these action steps, make sure that you've got these steps going for you. You learn how to make sure you learn to love vegetables. Your cruciferous vegetables are what? What are they? Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. That's my new favorite thing. You know where I learned to love Brussels sprouts? That woman in there. That Catherine, the pans. I learned from her. She made this amazing Brussels sprout recipe, and I'm like, that's my new favorite vegetable. And I learned something. So get your vegetables, make sure you got your detox pathways working. And if you don't have them working immediately, make sure you got your detox system going, and take that 2-part system. I'm going to tell you a step further on this one right here. This is step 1, and this is step 2. So if you've never taken this product before, or you have it at home, and you find out at the end of the month, why do I have more capsules left over of one than the other? Anybody else do that? Right? And Mike's like, that's me. So that happens because you fell asleep watching TV and you forgot to get this one in. Right? I thought that. Right? Right? So instead of taking step 1 again and again and again, take step 2. And then before lunch, take step 1. So this is usually before breakfast. This is usually before dinner. Don't forget to take both steps. You guys with me? Because you've got to be able to clear those toxins off so that your body can heal. Okay, good? Yes, ma'am. You are so right. That's exactly what they suggest. Every one of my patients who are on Coumadin, they say the same thing. So, yeah, that is a very difficult thing. Your doctor is going to tell you not to do it because it's going to counter, it's going to cause your blood and the clotting, it's going to mess up the whole process of the clotting. So here's what I say. I say get healthy, work on your nerve system, work on all these other things so that eventually your body can heal on its own and you don't have to rely on being on those medications. Does that help? I mean, that's my best answer. Because to me, God gave us this stuff, right? He gave us a nerve supply to heal. He didn't mess anything up. He gave us the foods, right? He gave us the garden. He gave us the animals. He told us which ones to eat and which ones not to eat. He just gave us all that. When we get in a crisis is one thing. Like, we have to deal with a crisis, right? But I think so often we are just literally in handcuffs to a really weird diagnosis or a weird system. It doesn't work. So these doctors, like Dr. David said, we want to get people out of that so that they can live, right, and be healthy. So that's good. I'm glad we're going to have some Q&As actually at the end too, so it's going to be good. That's a really good question. The gut factor is another huge component for your body's ability to detoxify. You've got to have a healthy gut or you will not be able to detoxify. In fact, I'll go a step further. If you have autoimmune, you got a gut problem, and you better get your metabolics tested because you're going to have to heal your gut, and that's going to be the only way we're going to find out. You guys with me? You have to get your gut checked, or you won't overcome an autoimmune disorder of any kind. You won't. So we know about this, right? What does GMO stand for? What's the O? Does that sound yummy? Ooh, I can't wait to eat my organisms today. Like, gross. GMO, organisms. Like, God didn't make it, so we're messing with nature. We start trying to invent seeds to grow, put toxins with them so that they last longer on the truck. We went to Zimbabwe, and when we opened the clinic in Zimbabwe over there, they put us in front of the agricultural domain. We had 250 people. And they asked me to speak to them in Zimbabwe, Africa. And I'm like, okay, here we go. The question was, we don't have any food. So we want to use this GMO seed because if we get this seed, we're going to be able to grow food. Now, the Bible says there's a way that seems right to man, and in the end it leads to what? In the end it leads to death. So pretty soon, I begged them not to, and fear took over because we make silly decisions, bad decisions when we're in fear. Fear took over, and they decided, nope, we're going to take this GMO seed, and we're going to have corn and all this other stuff. And pretty soon, in a nation where the average age is 38, they only live to 38. You with me? The primary disease is HIV, and now suddenly we have bowel disease. Why do we have bowel disease? Because we sold out in our thinking, we made decisions out of fear, and now suddenly you don't take somebody with HIV and get them to live longer by giving them bowel disease. You with me? So we really mess things up in the nation, and we're seeing a lot of the side effects from that in the nation, in that area. And so here, we don't have to label anything, so we're all getting sick, and we don't even know it because of the genetically modified. We have to go a step further, guys. We have to look at labels and look at the label and make sure it says non-GMO project on there. There's a label that means it's not GMO. You're going to have to go a step further. Non-GMO project, look for that label, because whoever has that label that means that they actually have good seeds, good food, and they don't have toxins inside the seed that man made. So make sure that you're not getting GMOs because it's very dangerous and it's contributing to cancer. They did a lab study, and they actually did a study on rats, and they found that in, I think it was 150 days, at 150 days, they fed these rats this GMO corn, and as long as the study tested them before 150 days, there were no tumors. But at 150 days, all the rats had tumors in them. So it made it look like the rats were all fine eating GMO stuff. And they published it as an article saying there's nothing wrong with GMO. So this is the stuff. It's causing leaky gut. It's causing autoimmune. It's causing every condition. So in fact, in my office, I've tested, and yes, that's the rat picture. Okay, good. That's on the board. In my office, I've tested the metabolics for the last 5-6 years, and it's crazy in the past 2 years the amount of leaky gut and C. diff. Do you guys know what C. diff is? It's a wicked bacteria you get from being in a hospital, and they usually have you on antibiotics the rest of your life, and you usually die because they don't know what to do with the bacteria. It kills people. Well, in my office, we've tested 7 cases with the metabolics, and all 7 have healed. Thank you, Jesus, right? So this stuff is real, this testing. And so being able to handle and overcome an autoimmune, you've got to make sure that you test and stay away from the GMOs. GMOs, there you go, Zoe. Autoimmune disease. So what is the definition of autoimmune disease? It's a disease in which the body produces antibodies that attacks its own tissues, leading to deterioration and in some cases to the destruction of the tissue. So it attacks its own tissue. Now think about that. You've got lupus, it attacks its own tissue, right? Like the connective tissue. So now suddenly you have lupus. You have multiple sclerosis, which attacks your nerve system. Now this is demonic, guys. This is not from the Lord. This is crazy. Your body is fearfully and wonderfully made, and suddenly it's attacking itself. That's why we're working through these 5 essentials to help your body so it can actually begin to heal the way that God designed it to. Type 1 diabetes, it attacks its what? Your pancreas, right? There's cells in your pancreas that make insulin, so your body starts to attack its own pancreas. Rheumatoid arthritis attacks its own what? Joints. Parkinson's. Your brain, right? Chronic fatigue, ulcerative colitis, Hashimoto's, thyroid. Did you know that we're going to have double the number of people with autoimmune than has cancer? Double. We're not talking about autoimmune like we should be. Double the number of cases of autoimmune than that have cancer. And so there's so many things in this office that you can do to heal from it. Now, if you don't have a place that does labs for you, like blood labs, blood and urine, the labs that you do when you go to a medical doctor, if you don't have that, we have that here to just see our staff. You want to test your thyroid and make sure you don't have antibodies attacking yourself. You want to test that. So we have a good lab you can do. I've had a few of you just say, hey, I don't have a regular place that I go. Do you have anybody? So you can see the front office. These are some of this is the number of things that we test for. There's like 4 or 5 pages that we test for. And again, vitamin D, all of your thyroid antibodies, your cholesterol, your general labs that you're used to. Make sure you get that stuff tested. That's an important thing to make sure that you know. The last bit, everybody get but how'd you like the food, guys? Was the food okay? Okay, good. Are you feeling full? Now, the reason why you're feeling full, you're probably a little shocked there wasn't as much, but it was because it was so much what? So much fat. We gave you all kinds of good fats in green juice, and who liked the green juice? All right, awesome. Those of you who were like, I don't do vegetables.
All right. Father, we just thank you for today and the time that we had together. We just ask, God, that every single part of this is a blessing and a glory to you, and that every single person here, as they take action steps towards health and better health, that you take great God-sized steps towards them and us. So, Father, we just ask a blessing on the mission of changing healthcare and eliminating suffering together. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
God bless
All right.
you guys.
Thank you, guys.